Thunderbirds heard about me. They said, hey, we hear you're doing an air show with an airplane that's not used in air shows. I said, you're right. Squirreliest thing in the Air Force inventory. They said, we want to interview you. I went through a 6-hour interview with the Thunderbirds. And at the end of the 6 hours, the leader of the team walked over, stuck his hand out to me, said, congratulations, you made it. I said, fantastic. Get to fly with the cream of the crop. But it was not to be. They said, no, we need all-weather pilots. Cox can't go. That knocked me out of flying with the team. I said, that ripped it. That did it. The Air Force has been asking for this. They're going to get it. Plan B. And I executed Plan B. I sent in my resignation knowing that would shape up the Air Force. And they signed it. I was a civilian overnight trying to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. So I headed out for the West Coast to fly with the airlines, knowing they would be ecstatic to get a hold of the hottest thing in the skies. Wrong. They loved me as long as I was talking to them on the phone. They said 2,400 hours of high-performance fighter time, test pilot, air show pilot, never had an accident. I said, that's it. Kind of guy we're looking for. We're mailing you an application today. Well, I had already discovered I had a problem as far as the airlines were concerned. Perhaps some of you have already figured out what that problem is. I said, before you waste a stamp, what are the height requirements for flying with your airline? They said 5 feet 8. I said, what a coincidence. That happens to be my goal. A goal I am obviously still working on. People back there say, he didn't look that short. Watch this. That's why I work on platforms. Anyway, I tried my best to convince them I wasn't short. I just wound tight. I joined this big sales company, sold for a year. End of the year, looked at what I'd earned. I said, not bad. I earned more selling than I'd ever earned as a test pilot on hazardous duty pay, and I didn't have to worry about getting killed that year in selling. Well, I can't say that either. There were a couple of customers that year I wasn't real sure about. I wasn't into customer service like I am now, but I thought, this is a good thing. The company came to me and said, I want you to take over the top office out of our 36-office chain. Well, I could hardly wait to get back to that top office because that's also where I'd been a brand new salesperson the first year out of the Air Force. You could not even begin to imagine how those top people in that #1 office, who remembered me as the brand new guy from the year before, the rookie from right out of the Air Force, now welcome me back as their boss. Maybe you could imagine. They hated me with a passion. I kept saying to them, don't think of me as the boss. Just think of me as a friend who's always right. You can imagine how well it worked. I took that office from first place. You're ahead of me. To 36th out of 36 offices in 3 months' time. Totally wiped that son of a gun out.
The Supersonic Fighter is like an organization of talented people. You can get a lot out of it if you know how to handle it. If you push it too high, too fast, and place unrealistic demands on it, the whole organization, like my airplane, can tumble out of control right out of the sky. I did just that in my airplane, as well as in the office I managed. Only 3 pilots out of 9 before me had survived one of those violent pitch-ups. When my office was going down in flames, it didn't look like I was going to be able to pull out before I crashed and burned.
I knew I was in trouble. About that time, my boss showed up at my doorway. He said, I made a mistake by making you a manager, and I feel it only fair to let you know I'm now looking for your replacement. I said, now right there is not only the shortest, but the finest motivational seminar I have ever attended. I'm going to have to learn how to do this. He said, my boy, you don't have much time. I said, you have no idea how motivated I am. So I went to work on me, not them. Did you catch that?
To pull out of the pitch-up in my fighter, I popped the drag chute, got the air flowing over the wings again, and stabilized the aircraft after tumbling 30,000 feet. At the office, I also stopped trying to force the controls. When I backed off and started working on improving me, the downward spiral stopped, and we all started to climb again. My audiences love to hear how an ordinary person like me faced so many life-threatening situations and lived to tell the story. When I share my disasters, narrow escapes, and successes in the business world, everyone in the audience relates to a crisis or challenge that he or she has personally faced. Whenever I give programs on leadership, customer service, or personal high performance, people go away with a desire to break old habits and try new things.
120 days later, we were back up to number one. We could hardly wait to get to number one. Why? Well, so we could say we're number one, and also so we could all go like that. Oh. Now, if you've been charting the production in that office from before I took over, it was up at number one. I took over, bombed out 9 days later, 120 days later, back up to number one. With that kind of an attitude, you know what would have happened to that productivity line? It would have plateaued right back out where it had been before, and you'd be listening to somebody else here this afternoon instead of me. We started talking about that phenomenon. What is that thing where you get it up to a certain way you're doing your job and then quit getting better at it? Where can that happen? Well, at low productivity in any job. Anywhere else? Yeah, it can happen at medium productivity in any job. Anywhere else? Even in high productivity, we can plateau out. We started talking about this self-imposed barrier, and that's really what it was. My definition, self-imposed barrier is not a wall around your life. It's just the margin of your life where you haven't written anything yet. Good is enemy best. Best is enemy better. We get good at something, we have a tendency to say what? Why do I need to get to be best at this? I'm already good at it. Should we happen to get to be best at what we do, then the tendency is to say what? Why do I need to get any better? I'm already number one. That's when you need to get better more than any other time. Why? When contentment in the way you're doing your job sets in, progress stops at that point. After we had plateaued out, I called each one of my salespeople in individually, and here's what I said to them. Privately, door closed, individually. I said, I don't want you to worry about breaking anybody else's record. I just want you to worry about breaking your own on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis. Not necessarily in that order, but once and the reason I said that to them, I said, I don't want you to shoot for somebody else's record. It's too hard to keep track of it to see if you're making progress. But they knew what their best day was. They knew what their best week was. They knew what their best month was. And if they didn't know, I helped them figure it out. Well, you can imagine once they saw their own records, some of them even low records, starting to break, you can imagine what happened to the energy in the organization. It went sky high. We broke office records, company records, industry records.